It's week 12 of the NFL season, and here are my predictions for this week. But first, how did I do in week 11? In week 11, I was 7-7 in my predictions. And before getting into the video, I just want to say happy Thanksgiving to everyone watching. And kicking off the week on Thursday, the Thanksgiving games, we have the 4-6 Packers versus the 8-2 Lions. The Packers are coming off a 23-20 win over the Chargers. And in that game, Jordan Love passed for 322 yards and 2 touchdowns. And the Lions are coming off a comeback win, 31-26 over the Bears, where they were down by 12 with 4 minutes and 15 seconds left in the game. In this game, Jared Goff had 236 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. David Montgomery had 12 carries for 76 yards and a touchdown, and Amon-Ra St. Brown had 8 receptions for 77 yards and a touchdown. This Lions team has been very good all season long, and I have them winning. Next, the 4-7 Commanders versus the 7-3 Cowboys. The Commanders are coming off a very bad loss, 31-19 to the Giants. In that game, Sam Howell completed 31 of 45 passes for 255 yards, 1 touchdown, and 3 interceptions. And despite giving up 31 points, their defense was actually pretty good, having 9 sacks and 2 interceptions. And the Cowboys are coming off a 33-10 win over the Carolina Panthers. In this game, Dak Prescott had 189 yards and 2 touchdowns, and their defense was very good as well. They had 7 sacks and an interception. And Micah Parsons had 2.5 sacks. And Deron Bland got his 4th pick 6 of the season, which ties an NFL record. But I think the Commanders are going to win. Next, the 7-3 49ers versus the 6-4 Seahawks. Last week, the 49ers won 27-14 against the Buccaneers. In that game, Brock Purdy was 21 of 25 passing for 333 yards and 3 touchdowns. And Brandon Ayuk had 5 receptions for 156 yards and a touchdown. And the Seahawks lost to the Rams 17-16. And in that game, Geno Smith had 233 yards and 1 touchdown. And DK Metcalf had 5 receptions for 94 yards and a touchdown. And the 49ers are going to win this game. And moving over to Friday, for the first ever Black Friday game, is the 7-3 Miami Dolphins versus the 4-6 New York Jets. The Dolphins are coming off a 20-13 win over the Las Vegas Raiders, and they are now 5-0 this season at home. But in this game, Tua had 325 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception, and Tyreek Hill had 10 receptions for 146 yards and a touchdown. And now on the season, Tyreek Hill has 79 receptions for 1,222 yards and 9 touchdowns. And for the Jets, they got blown out 32-6 against the Bills. And this week, the Jets are benching Zach Wilson and will start Tim Boyle. But I have the Dolphins winning. Next, the 6-4 Steelers versus the 5-5 Bengals. And the Steelers have fired their offensive coordinator, Matt Canada. And they are coming off a 13-10 loss to the Browns. And in that game, Jaylen Warren had 9 carries for 129 yards and a touchdown. And that was pretty much their entire offense that game. And for the Bengals, Joe Burrow is out for the rest of the season with a ligament tear in his wrist. And last week they lost 34-20 to the Ravens. And this game, I think the Steelers are going to win. Next, the 7-3 Jaguars versus the 6-4 Texans. Last week, the Jaguars blew out the Titans 34-14. In that game, Trevor Lawrence had 262 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Calvin Ridley had 7 receptions for 103 yards and 2 touchdowns. And the Texans have now won 3 games in a row. And last week, C.J. Stroud had 336 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Devin Singletary also had 112 yards and a touchdown. And Tank Dell had 8 receptions for 149 yards and a touchdown. I think this is going to be a very high-scoring game, and I could see it going either way. But with the way CJ Stroud has been playing this season, I have the Texans winning. Next, the 4-6 Buccaneers versus the 5-5 Colts. The Buccaneers have now lost 5 out of their last 6 games, and the Colts are coming off their bye week. And I think the Buccaneers are going to win. Next, the 5-5 Saints versus the 4-6 Falcons. Both of these teams are coming off their bye weeks, and I think the Falcons are going to win. Next, the 2-8 Patriots versus the 3-8 Giants. The Patriots are coming off their bye week, and the Giants are coming off a 31-19 win over the Commanders. In that game, Tommy DeVito got his first career win, and he was actually pretty good. He had 246 yards and 3 touchdowns, and Kayvon Thibodeau had 2 sacks, and the defense had 3 total interceptions. But both of these teams have been just very bad this season, and I think the Giants are going to win. Next, the 1-9 Panthers versus the 3-7 Titans, and the Titans are going to win this game. Next, the 7-3 Browns versus the 5-5 Broncos. The Browns are coming off a very ugly win, 13-10 over the Pittsburgh Steelers. And in that game, Dorian Thompson-Robinson got his first career win, and he will start again this week. And on the Browns defense, Myles Garrett had another 2-sack game, and he has now had 7.5 sacks in his last 5 games, and is definitely the front runner to win Defensive Player of the Year this season. And the Browns also signed Joe Flacco to their practice squad. And the Broncos have now won 4 games in a row. Last week, Russell Wilson had 259 yards and a touchdown, and Cortland Sutton had 4 receptions for 66 yards and a touchdown. And I have the Browns winning this game. Next, the 4-6 Rams versus the 2-9 Cardinals. The Rams snapped their 3-game losing streak with a 17-16 win over the Seahawks. And for the Cardinals, they have been playing much better with Kyler Murray, but they're just not a good team. And the Rams are going to win this game. Next, the 7-3 Chiefs versus the 5-6 Raiders. Both of these teams are coming off losses, and both of them were close games. For the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes did not have a good game, completing 24 of 43 passes for 177 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. But they did run the ball very well versus the Eagles. Isaiah Pacheco had 89 yards, and the team had a total of 168 rushing yards. And for the Raiders, they had a chance to tie the game versus the Dolphins late in the 4th quarter, but Aiden O'Connell threw an interception in the end zone with 32 seconds left in the game. And that was Aiden O'Connell's 3rd interception of the game. And this week, I have the Chiefs winning. Next, the 6-5 Bills versus the 9-1 Eagles. Last week, the Bills had a very nice win over the Jets, 32-6. Josh Allen in that game had 275 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. And Khalil Shakir had 3 receptions for 115 yards and a touchdown. And the Eagles are coming off a comeback win where they were down by 10 at halftime and then shut out the Chiefs in the second half to win 21-17. The Eagles are just all around the best team in the NFL, and they're going to win this week. On Sunday Night Football, we have the 8-3 Ravens versus the 4-6 Chargers. The Ravens are coming off a huge win, 34-20 over the Bengals, and with the Kansas City Chiefs losing this week, the Ravens are now the 1 seed in the AFC. But in this game, Lamar Jackson had 264 yards, 2 touchdowns, and Gus Edwards had 62 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Odell Beckham Jr. had a very good game with 4 receptions for 116 yards. And the Chargers this season have been just very disappointing. They lost 23-20 to the Packers. Justin Herbert had 260 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he also led the team with 73 rushing yards. And I have the Ravens winning this week. And on Monday Night Football, the 3-8 Bears versus the 6-5 Vikings. Last week, Justin Fields returned and had 169 yards and a touchdown, and he ran for 104 yards. But the Bears were up by 12 in this game with only 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and they gave up 2 touchdowns and a safety. And the Vikings are coming off a 21-20 loss to the Broncos. And in that game, Josh Dobbs had 221 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. And Alexander Mattison had 81 yards rushing. But I have the Vikings winning this game. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe. Goodbye.